right, food, a very big theme today. Did okay, which you might want to consider for this segment, because you might want to think twice before packing your kids' lunch. The new culprit in the war against childhood obesity, soda. And the Center for Science and the Public Interest wants to kick it in the can. Bruce Silverglade is from the group that is coordinating the campaign. He's with me tonight. Bruce, thanks for coming.
Good evening.
Soda is what you're going after now. Why?
Well, Coca-Cola and Pepsi are flooding the world with high-calorie, sugary soft drinks that play heavily in the global childhood obesity crisis. Diseases like type 2 diabetes, which were formerly called adult-onset diabetes, are now occurring in children. And this may be the first generation in history to live shorter lives than their parents.
All right, but let the parents and the kids in society decide, not you or your group, right?
Well, Coca-Cola and Pepsi spend almost $5 billion a year advertising their products worldwide. That is a sum that's exponentially higher than the amount spent on nutrition education. And all that marketing, much of which is directed at children, undermines parents' parental authority and counteracts the efforts by parents to teach their children.
So what do you want to do? Do you want them to stop making soda?
Well, Coke has and Pepsi have made some improvements in the United States, and soft drink sales have actually declined slightly in the U.S. And the companies have agreed to stop selling soft drinks not only in elementary schools, as they have done for several years, but also now in high schools. We'd like to see these changes internationally. These are global companies. It's a global health problem, and we'd like to see consistent action across the globe.
But you know, Bruce, by the same token, you can say, hey, you know, the guys who put out all these packages of bacon, they're risky. The ones who give all these cookies, you know, they're risky. The ones who are touting all this sweet candy, what they're pushing is risky. You could start clearing out shelves here, abroad, everywhere, because folks like you with very good intentions are saying it's dangerous. Where do you draw the line?
Well, no one's talking about clearing off the shelves, but we are talking about
you're
curbing the
advocating that
advertising.
No. You, in a way, you are, Bruce, because you're saying, don't sell this stuff to this group, which now this group will expand maybe to other groups, and I'm just worried how far you go.
Well, we say don't sell this stuff to kids in schools. Now, it's not being done in the U.S. It shouldn't be done in Europe or Latin America. Similarly, in the United Kingdom and England, Coke and Pepsi and other food companies have agreed not to advertise these types of foods to children under 16. In the United States, the promise is only to children under 12. Why the difference? These are American companies. Don't American consumers deserve the same thing that others are getting?
Let me ask you this. As a percentage of the population, the group that uses and drinks soda now isn't markedly different than it was back in the 60s when the obesity problem was not what it is today. So you are taking away or recommending taking away an item that might not be the culprit in obesity, and that was certainly not the culprit some 30, 40 years ago.
Well, no one is suggesting, not my group or anybody else I know of, is suggesting taking away the product. We're saying it shouldn't be sold in schools, and the marketing for the product, the promotion of the product should be curbed, as it has been in the United Kingdom and
see,
elsewhere.
Bruce, what you're doing, though, is you're treating it like cigarettes, like tobacco products. And I'm just wondering where you draw that line, because now you're going after soda. I'm sure we could extend this to eggs, to bacon, to sausage, to cookies, to gum, you know, and how it's marketed or sold to different groups. I just think that's a very slippery caloric slope.
Well, there are foods of low nutritional value, junk foods as we call them, that really shouldn't be marketed to children. This is the law now in England, and Kellogg's and Coca-Cola and Pepsi and other food companies in the U.S. are complying with it. Why shouldn't they comply with similar
Bruce,
restrictions here?
I could ask you this, right? Years ago, like when I was a kid, you know, you had the food pyramid and all. Now, mine had bakery products at the top of it. That was my personal one. But in all reality, it was milk and eggs. Make sure you got a lot of milk. Make sure you got a lot of eggs. Now, years later, saying, you know what? You're alone with the milk and eggs. Stop it with the milk and eggs. So what I'm saying is, even in the course of years, what looks dangerous suddenly isn't dangerous, and what didn't look dangerous suddenly is.
Well, soft drinks will never be healthful. They're nutritionally worthless. Milk and eggs, while yes, they're high in saturated fat and cholesterol to some degree, provide protein, vitamins, and minerals. Soft drinks provide no nutritional value whatsoever.
So what are you going to say to Bazooka bubblegum? A lot of kids like Bazooka bubblegum. Now, there's no nutritional value to that, right?
It's fine to have bubble gum. It shouldn't be sold in schools. It shouldn't be promoted
What's
with
going to be sold
billion-dollar
in schools?
advertising campaigns.
All right, what's going to be sold in
on
schools?
television to children?
What's going to be sold in schools?
Well, for beverages, low-fat milk, fruit juice in reasonable portion sizes, and plain old water is probably the best thing that kids can drink, believe it or not.
All right, then all the other stuff that their parents or that they're exposed to outside, just not past these school walls, right?
Well, now, schools are a very protected environment. It's supposed to be an educational environment. This is where we're supposed to be teaching our young people good habits, including good eating habits. And it's no place for commercialism and promotion of junk foods. And that $5 billion a year marketing campaign for soft drinks just runs roughshod over this much smaller nutrition education programs that public health officials and school
districts
try to use.
But you know what's going on here, Bruce? I wish we had more time, my friend, but we don't. But what's going on here is, because we seem to lack faith in the American people to police themselves, good-intentioned people like you are going to come forward and say, we will try to take care of you and your kids, because obviously you are not. And isn't that a parent's choice? And isn't that ultimately average American's choice and not your choice?
Well, you know, this personal responsibility argument is very interesting. Obesity rates have greatly increased just in the last 10 or 15 years. So if you follow that argument to its logical conclusion, we all became irresponsible in the last decade. I think that's simplistic. There's much more to it than that. The food industry has beefed up their marketing to kids. They've changed the ingredients of their products. They've pushed larger portions. And the food industry shares a large part of the blame in the current obesity crisis.
The parents share an obligation to make sure that their kids don't do this. It is not up to guys like you to tell the parents you're screwing up.
And I am a parent, and I have 2 sons, and I try to teach them to eat well, and I don't want the soft drink companies spending $5 billion a year telling them something different.
Okay, Bruce, we respectfully disagree, but very good having you here.
Thank you.
Bruce Silverglade in Washington.